notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was, in fact, a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the briefing with me, Gloria De Piero. The Prime Minister is trying to shore up support ahead of a possible confidence vote next week, but Parliament is in recess. We'll bring you fantasy PMQs instead with former Conservative and Labour MPs. I've been talking with voters in the Midlands. They're cross with Boris Johnson, but not sure about Keir Starmer. And I've a heartbreaking constituency surgery with two mums whose teenage son and daughter were killed in the Manchester terror attack. First, it's your news with Rosie.
A very good afternoon to you. It's 12 o'clock. I'm Rosie Wright, keeping you up to date on GB News. The Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab, has told GB News that Boris Johnson won't be facing a leadership challenge. The Prime Minister has been criticised by his ethics advisor, who says Boris Johnson's police fine may have breached the ministerial code. Now, that's something politicians would resign over. The ethics advisor, Lord Geit, questioned the Prime Minister's willingness to take responsibility for his own conduct. Dominic Raab, though, has defended the Prime Minister, telling GB News not every breach of law amounts to a breach of the ministerial code.
It's only Graham Brady, the chair of the 1922 committee, that will know, but I'm confident that the overwhelming majority of MPs that I talk to want to see us focused on the job at hand, the cost of living, the situation in Ukraine, the crime-fighting agenda, the skills agenda, and so I think it's very unlikely we'll see a leadership challenge.
The Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, is meeting with airline bosses to find out what's gone wrong as half-term travel disruption continues. British Airways has cancelled at least 124 flights at Heathrow. EasyJet has cancelled over 30 from Gatwick today. BA says passengers were given advance notice. Well, airlines are blaming delays and cancellations on staff shortages. Speaking to GB News, the Shadow Scotland Secretary, Ian Murray, says the industry's been asking for help for a long time.
Knew it was coming, and they've seen what happened at the Easter break, and they have been asking for the government to assist and the government to put policies in place that would help them to recruit staff and to get them through security checks as quickly as possible. So there's blame on all sides here, but we need the government to step up, and whilst it's paralysed by the Transport Secretary spending his time persuading colleagues to support the Prime Minister, we've got a government who's got its eye off the ball when the travel industry and the trade unions and the employees are all saying, please give us a hand and help us out.
Well, let's find out more. Will Hollis is our reporter at East Midlands Airport. Will, a lot of people clearly very disappointed when their travel and their holiday gets disrupted. Can you just give us an overview, the scale of the disruption?
Yes, well, that disruption is palpable today, as we've seen over the last few weeks. We saw it during the Easter holidays, and we're seeing it now ahead of this Jubilee bank holiday. And Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary, has said that airlines have seriously oversold flights and holidays relative to their capacity to deliver. Obviously, there's that pent-up demand from during the pandemic, 2 years of not being able to go away on holiday, lots of people wanting to go on holiday, and it seems that there has been an overbooking in some sense. Now, we're going to see most of those problems where you're seeing hundreds of flights cancelled, particularly at those big airports, Manchester, Birmingham, Heathrow. Small airports like East Midlands are doing a little bit better, but it's certainly going to be a problem-filled weekend if you are trying to fly, certainly from those bigger airports.
And for those people getting away for the bank holiday weekend, Will, thank you very much from East Midlands Airport there. Now, footballer Kurt Zouma has been sentenced to 180 hours of community service, and he's been banned from keeping cats for 5 years after he admitted kicking and slapping his pet cat. He's also been told to pay court costs of nearly £9,000. The 27-year-old West Ham defender pleaded guilty last week at Thames Magistrates Court to 2 counts of animal cruelty. Well, our national reporter Paul Hawkins is outside the court right now. Paul, what did the judge have to say?
The judge, Susan Holdham, called their behaviour disgraceful and reprehensible. She added, "The cat looked up to you to care for its needs. On that date in February, you did not provide for its needs," although she did acknowledge that both men did show genuine remorse. We talk about both men because don't forget Kurt Zouma's younger brother Johan, given a 140-hour community service and also banned from owning cats for 5 years. He was taking the video of Kurt Zouma kicking and slapping his cat around his home back in February. West Ham said it wanted to make clear that we condemn in the strongest terms any form of animal abuse or cruelty. They said this type of behaviour is unacceptable and not in line with the values of the football club. They said they've given the maximum possible fine of £250,000, 2-week wages to Kurt Zouma. They've donated that money to an animal welfare charity. And they've said that they hope now that the court has reached its decision, everyone will allow Kurt the chance to learn from his mistake and move on.
Our national reporter Paul Hawkins outside the court there. Thank you. A record 2 million people are estimated to be suffering from long COVID. The ONS says of those affected, nearly 3/4 say they're suffering 12 or more weeks after they had or suspected they had the infection. Over 370,000 people are still suffering 2 years after having the virus. Common symptoms include fatigue, shortness of breath and brain fog. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's head back to the briefing with Gloria.
Coming up this hour on The Briefing, Westminster is abuzz with speculation about when or if Boris Johnson will face a vote of no confidence. But Parliament is in recess this week, so we'll bring you fantasy PMQs instead with former Conservative Minister Anne Widdecombe and former Labour MP Graham Jones. I've been talking to Red Wall voters in Ashfield, my former constituency. They have plenty to say about the soaring prices and about politics. They're not very happy, to put it mildly. I have a very moving constituency surgery today with 2 mums whose teenage son and daughter were killed in the Manchester Arena terror attack. They and their MP are campaigning to be able to register their children's deaths. Give me your political briefing. Send in your views and opinions by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. Can I start by offering my congratulations to the city where I was born, grew up and got married to. Bradford has won City of Culture 2025. Well done, Bradford. Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries had warm words to say.
It's incredibly exciting that Bradford won today as the winner of the UK City of Culture 2025. It's all about our levelling up agenda. It's about Bradford being able to take that inward investment, those opportunities and to shine. And, you know, as they say, it's their time and their place, and I couldn't endorse that more.
Well done, Bradford. Now, on Wednesday, we usually get the Prime Minister taking questions from MPs in the House of Commons. As this week Parliament is not sitting, we bring you fantasy PMQs. Joining me, my fantastic panel, Anne Widdecombe, former Conservative MP, and Graham Jones, former Labour MP. Welcome to you both. Oh, I'm sure Graham's about to appear any second now. Anne, let me start with you. Let me take you back to the House of Commons. Imagine you're still there. What would you ask the Prime Minister?
I think I'd like to ask the Prime Minister when this Conservative government will actually show itself to be Conservative. When we're going to have tax cutting instead of tax raising, when we're going to have control of the public finances rather than just profligate spending every time there's any sort of crisis. But above all, I'd like to ask him about this reported new measure whereby police are going to be encouraged, and this is a Conservative Home Secretary, police are going to be encouraged to record far more crime hate incidents. Now, I start from the premise, as I said in my Express column today, very good column every Wednesday.
I watched it. I read it. I read it this morning.
I start from, well done, thank you. I start with the premise that one of the most basic definitions of freedom is that you cannot be given any sort of criminal record unless you have either been convicted in a court of law or you have accepted a fixed penalty, a fine. And I do not see that anybody should ever say this is a hate incident unless there has been due process. So those are, you can take your pick of those, what I would be asking the Prime Minister today.
Very much. The Speaker might have interrupted you. It was quite long, but we won't.
He would have done. He would have done.
Graham, nice to see you. Welcome to the show. Same question to you. If you were in the Commons, what would you ask?
Probably be the topic of the day, or the two topics of the day, cost of living and Partygate. It will be about being tough on crime and tough on the causes of crime. I mean, I would like to ask, is it now acceptable for people to use as a defence that they didn't know that they were breaking the law? To me, this is deeply worrying that people would use that as a defence. There can be no defence that they didn't know that they were breaking the law. And as for tough on the causes of crime, you know, I would ask the Prime Minister if he would call a general election, because I do think that the country needs change, that this government has lost its way. I do think that we need to have a government that represents the people.
OK, thanks to you both for that. Now, Anne, as Graham alluded to there is a steady flow now of Conservative MPs calling for Boris Johnson's resignation. I'm interested in your historical perspective here. Once this process starts, is it really the beginning of the end for a leader, regardless of whether the magic number required to trigger that leadership contest is reached?
No, it doesn't have to be, but, I mean, what I think we're seeing now is a lot of MPs just losing their nerve. And I've seen that happen before, and that never has a good ending. I'm not now talking about the Prime Minister, but for the party concerned, that never has a good ending if people lose their nerve, start behaving like an undisciplined rabble. I'm interested that Graham is yet again wanting to talk about Partygate. We've been talking about this for months. The Prime Minister has apologised about 35 times. For heaven's sake, I can't believe that ordinary citizens who are facing rising fuel bills, can't get on the planes for their holidays, are really worried about Partygate. What they're worried about is getting the country run properly. That's what we should now all be focused on. And those MPs who are losing their nerve, I would say to them, you know, get over the idea that the conditions that prevail today are going to be prevailing in 2 years' time. Plenty of governments have had abysmal opinion polls a couple of years before a general election and have gone on to win. Happened even to Thatcher.
OK, thank you for that. Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner, Graham, have now received their police questionnaire for the gathering in Durham. Both party leaders took a break from work and drank alcohol. It's the same thing.
Well, I watched the video and that was not my interpretation of what went on. It was a very short video clipped through a window. I just saw somebody drinking a beer at a work event. They were clearly in an office environment, 350 miles from home. And at some point, you've got to have something to eat. I understand from it that the restaurant in the hotel wasn't serving past 10, so they'd scheduled some food in to finish around that time. What they were doing, order some food and presumably carry on, or whatever they were doing afterwards. And it was a work-related lunch. That's all I saw. Now, the police, Durham Police, have investigated this and found that there was no case to answer for. Now, they're looking at it again. They've received some other complaints. It's only right that the police do investigate these matters. I've got no complaints about that. And Keir Starmer's been very, very clear. You know, if he's given a fixed penalty notice, he'll step down. And that's the big difference between the Labour Party and the Labour leader and the Conservative Party and the Conservative leader. Taking responsibility.
OK. Anne has been desperate to come back. But am I allowed to come back and talk about the Queen? Or if you're desperate to come back, Anne, on this issue?
Yeah, I don't think all that can go unanswered, and I don't think Graham would expect it to go unanswered for one moment. What the Prime Minister did was a genuine work break. he was working with people with whom he had lawfully been working all day, was going to go on to be working, that's the crucial point, Graham, and who took a break to eat a bit of birthday cake that actually never even left its Tupperware box. Now, that was lawful because when I say it was lawful, what I mean is it was reasonable to call it a work break. There was no break in the Keir Starmer incident. It was the end of the day. It wasn't necessarily, and this is what I'd like to hear examined, with people that he'd been working with all day. I mean, when you're out on a campaign, people come and they go. And I would like very much to know who was involved in that. I suspect party workers were. And that is not quite the same thing as Downing Street staff. So no, I don't think it's the same. But yes, I'd love to talk about the Queen. I really would, because it's her jubilee.
How are you going to be celebrating? Go on, Graham. Go on. Go on, Graham.
Well, the difference is people were wheeling in suitcases of booze, boozing till 4 a.m, making an awful lot of noise, which was reported. You know, these were clearly parties, and that's not just my opinion, that's the general opinion of the public. They look at these and consider them to be out-and-out parties. They were not just a break from work. That's not what the public see. And in the court of public opinion, that's where we are, and that's why the Prime Minister should take responsibility. Not just the court of public opinion. The Met Office agree. And
okay, I'm going to...
Well, if you let me finish, they've issued a fixed penalty note.
Let me come in. Let me come in.
Fined for those events. The event he was fined for was something that most people would have said was a work break. But yeah, carry on.
This is a feisty panel.
If people were wheeling booze into my house, I would know about it.
This is a feisty panel, and we love you both for it, but I want to talk about the Queen. I'm desperate to talk about the Queen.
Am I?
Anne, 70 years on the throne. How are you going to be celebrating this weekend?
I shall be joining a street party in my little hamlet. Very much looking forward to that, being organised by the one and only pub in the hamlet, and I'm immensely looking forward to celebrating. I can remember, I don't think Graham will, I think he's that much too young, but I can actually remember the coronation and getting a coronation mug with some sweets in it at school. Now, yes, she'd acceded a year before that, and the thing I remember about that is I was told it's no longer God Save the King, you've got to learn God Save the Queen. And my brother sat on my bed and taught me God Save the Queen.
Oh, that's a lovely story. Graham, Keir Starmer has written in the Telegraph newspaper today with a tribute to what he calls an extraordinary monarch. You wouldn't have seen it under Jeremy Corbyn, but I reckon there's still some Labour MPs who'd like to see the end of the royal family. I bet you're not one of them, though.
Well, you know me too well. No, I'll be going around the constituency. We have a number of events around the constituency, and there's bunting flying, and it's great to see it in the Union Jack flying. You know, I'm a unionist. It's great to see the nation's flag flying around this weekend and before, and probably for a while longer in celebration. Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend, and you know, I think that most Labour MPs are royalists. You'll always get some Republicans, and that's a legitimate view. It's just not my view.
Oh, well, I've loved talking to the both of you. I think you've made a great, fiery pair, and I hope you come back and do Fantasy PMQs with us again. Thank you both, Anne Widdecombe and Graham Jones. Thank you.
Thank you.
After the break, I went back to my former constituency of Ashfield to hear from people there. The constituency switched last time to the Conservative Party. Like so many others in the Red Wall, the first time at a general election that they did that, 2.5 years from that general election. Where are they now? Plus, I have a very heartbreaking interview. Caroline and Lisa are two mums whose children were killed at the Manchester Arena bombing. Their MP, Emma Llewellyn-Buck, has been campaigning with them to allow them to register their children's deaths. She'll be with us later.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. I went to the red wall seat of Ashfield in Nottinghamshire, my former constituency, which turned blue in 2019 for the first time at general election. Like so many other red wall seats, they had a lot to say about soaring prices and politics. It's fair to say they're not very happy. Let's have a look. So Ashfield, this former mining constituency, like so many constituencies with a mining heritage, it turned for the first time at a general election, that last general election, from always having a Labour MP to voting Conservative. It's seats like this that are responsible for Boris Johnson's whopping majority. So I wanted to come back 2.5 years later to listen to people here. Have they changed their mind? What do they think about politics? Hello everyone, it's good to be here in the Dog and Parrot in Eastwood. Some of you might know I used to live down the road. It's really good to be back because I learnt a lot from people that lived in this area. Cost of living crisis, we're all hearing about it. I was just wondering, has it affected any of your families, you and your family, the rising prices?
I have both my parents are pensioners and they live on their own, they've got their own house, but at the moment we have to look after them because they're struggling with the bills, groceries, their movement, the travel. So it's very hard for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think everybody makes a conscious effort to cut back rather than living the lives that we were doing 2-3 years ago. Yeah. I think everybody's cutting back and being conscious about what they're buying, where they're going, and ultimately who they're spending time with as well.
Yeah. Well, we've noticed a difference with the pub. The cost of the beer's gone up and up and up and up. So as a trade, we've put our prices up once. I can't do it again. I just can't do it to customers. They're struggling themselves. So I prefer not to increase it.
And struggle yourself.
And struggle ourselves, yeah.
There are more and more parents are having to ask for food parcels and things like that from that the Start Right group because they just can't cope. And
it's like a food bank, this Start Right group.
It's like a food bank, specifically more aimed towards families with children.
Right.
And there's been a phenomenal increase in the amount of families that are needing that support and are needing that help.
Do you think the government's doing enough, or do you have any ideas about what they could do to help you? Or is it just something that they can't control anywhere?
I think it could be helped with fuel. Every day you see about fuel going up and up and up and up. £1.80 for diesel, £1.60, 62. Yeah. I'm thinking £1.60 is a cheap now. It's like for petrol. I mean, we've got a petrol car and a diesel van, diesel ones for work. But that's £1.80. To fill a tank up now, it's nearly £80 or £90, where it used to be 60. You know, so it's a big jump on what you're having to put in your tanks, definitely.
It's the same with food. It's like I always go to Iceland, and I've noticed, I've said to my husband over the last few weeks, it's not like 1p or 2p. You're talking 20p, you're talking 25p, you're talking 50p. And that is a hell of a lot of money, especially me personally, I work, and my husband, but them that don't,
it's difficult.
For whatever reason, it is difficult for them.
Especially when your weekly shop goes from 40
Exactly.
to 60, 70, 80
Yeah,
in some cases.
Exactly.
It's same for businesses. I mean, across the road, the restaurant, when we opened up, the items were a lot cheaper. Now, when we go to get the flour, the oil, the drinks, they're almost double price.
Yeah.
But we cannot increase our prices double because nobody's going to come in.
Yeah.
So it's the same.
Yeah. From my opinion, I'm not being funny or anything, but where you've got a politician that's getting a decent wage and everything else, I don't think they live in the world of reality. I really don't. I mean, I would love to go to some of these politicians and say, what's the price of a loaf of bread? What's the price of a full pint of milk? And actually ask them, because I don't think most of them actually understand the price of things these days. I think they sit there, they're getting paid this amount for expenses, this amount for a wage, and they're saying, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, but nobody's actually seeing that in reality.
They've talked the talk, but you've got to walk the walk now.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you trust, is there any politician that you trust?
Not now.
Not at the moment.
No.
No.
I want you to take yourself back to that last general election, because the place where we're sitting is one of so many constituencies which went from always Labour MP at a general election to a Conservative MP at that general election. I mean, it's people like you that are going to determine the result of the next general election, by the way, because you determined it last time, because there was a big switch in here, like there was in so many other parts of the country.
I swapped.
You swapped?
I went Conservative from Labour, and I voted Labour all my life from the age of being able to vote. And I went to Conservative because I didn't trust Corbyn, basically.
Yeah.
At this moment in time, I don't trust any of them.
I didn't like Corbyn in any way, shape or form. So I changed, went for Boris. I thought he'd be a down-to-earth bloke. You know, he came across as a beer drinker, a nice bloke. Not saying that he's done a bad job through the crisis.
I don't think he did that through the COVID.
No, but I think he's made a rod for his own back with everything, and basically just been the big pushover. So it was probably one of the biggest mistakes the country's made for a long, long time.
Do you trust Boris Johnson, first of all? Do you trust Boris Johnson?
Not now.
Not now.
No. Did.
No.
I did.
Yeah, I did.
Until what happened with COVID.
Yeah.
And then all that came out because the amount of families that have lost people, and we was had to abide by it. People were getting fined for it.
Heavily.
And exactly. And then all of a sudden it comes out, they decide they want to party. Let's do it all. Yeah, the leader of the country.
I think today
It's supposed to be setting an example for us.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're not telling me he didn't know what was going on.
It's like me not knowing what my staff are doing.
Yeah.
Really, it's like you.
He was at the parties. He broke the law, and how that man is still in power after everything he's done and hasn't lost the confidence of his party and the people absolutely bewilders me.
If he's got any kind of morals, more out of respect for those people that lost their lives, those that lost their businesses, that lost their living, if he's got anything like that, he should resign.
I'm going to ask you a different question now. I think we've had some very strong views about Boris Johnson. Keir Starmer.
I shut off from politics.
Where
recently.
did Keir Starmer come from? Because all of a sudden, Corbyn left, Keir Starmer arrived. I had never even heard of Keir Starmer.
I knew too as well.
Never even heard. So, how on earth he got to become Labour, I do not know.
It was never publicised, was it?
No. So it's as though he was like, yeah, you can have that job. It's about time we had a politician or a Prime Minister that thought about British people for a change. Instead of what's happening abroad and what have you. Think of us for a change. I've always said to my husband, whoever is the Prime Minister has to look at as though our country is his household. right? And we're his children. Now, if you got children, you won't be giving your money away to another country. You'd look after your own children first. Make sure you've got a roof over your head. Pay your bills. They don't.
They can't do it now, can they? They can't pay
They
their
don't
bills.
do it.
When I say the word Conservative Party, what words come into your head?
Rich. Rich.
Yeah.
Privilege.
Rich.
Liars.
The rich.
Very
and
unreliable.
liars. Yeah.
Very unreliable.
Yeah.
The Labour Party.
Oh, God. Working.
Yeah, working.
They're for the
It's
workers.
supposed to be for the people.
Well, they used to be for the workers.
Yeah.
It used to be, Labour used to be for the working class.
Yeah.
And then it changed. Because we got let down that often.
Is there anybody that you think, maybe that person, or anyone past or present, that you think, well, I trusted that one?
Somebody who's walked in the shoes of an average person
Yeah.
that earns 20 grand a year
Yeah.
and has to live
Live
with
that
kids
life.
and live that life.
I think they
Our
ought to change
lives.
the rules on politicians. I believe that they ought to change the rules on how you become a politician. It's all very well going to university, studying this, studying that, going into a law degree or whatever you are, but unless you've lived a life of a normal human being in this country, done a job, been on the dole, or whatever it be, you're never going to understand.
I would love somebody like Zelensky.
Really? So you thought of a politician that you trust, Zelensky?
Well, he's still there fighting with his people.
He's still fighting for his people and what he's doing. That man must be on his knees for what's going on over there. And I can't see any of our MPs ever doing what that man is doing.
They fly to their manners in another country.
Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
But he's a brilliant example of someone who has lived a life and then gone into politics rather than being a politician.
Not the opposite way round.
Exactly.
He's had the experience of life to put into it.
Life experience, I think, is the biggest word.
Yeah, absolutely. Walk in your shoes is what someone said. I think it's a brilliant way of putting it. So thank you so much for giving me your words of wisdom, the difficult decisions that you will make come the next polling day, but your very strong and well thought out views about what we need from our politics and politicians. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So lots of anger with the government, but no guarantees of voters switching back to Labour. So I moved to my dog walking chats. I always found political chats whilst dog walking were a great sounding board.
I was always a stout Labour supporter.
You were always Labour?
Always Labour, throughout my whole working life.
What, until last time?
Until last time.
When you voted for Boris Johnson and the Conservatives. Why?
Yes.
Why did you change your vote last time?
No faith in Labour because of the leader at the time.
Yeah.
I wanted Brexit, so I went for Johnson. I didn't know who else to vote for besides that. And I feel that Brexit probably wasn't the best route to take. And I've lost all faith in Conservatives, as most people have. Of course, you don't know what to believe in what they say.
So, John, you're going to vote tomorrow. Just pretend there's a general election tomorrow. You voted Labour all your life. Like so many people in communities like this, you switched at that last election.
Yes.
What do you know what you're going to do?
I'm going to vote Labour.
You are?
I
You're
don't
going
think
back.
Starmer's as strong as I thought it would be. I think it could come over stronger.
Yeah.
But I'm going to vote Labour. I believe in them more so than Conservatives this time.
So one-off, that vote you think was a one-off for
Yes,
Conservative?
probably a mistake in hindsight. But at the time, Labour was just off the rails. I thought, I've got to go Conservative. I wanted Brexit.
Yeah.
Conservative wanted Brexit, so I went for Brexit.
What did I learn? Well, they've lost faith in Boris Johnson. They really had some quite harsh words to say about him. But as for Labour, they haven't yet sealed the deal to get those voters back. In a moment, we'll have the latest on the Prime Minister's increasingly precarious position. And my constituency surgery is heartbreaking. I'll talk with two mums whose children were killed in the Manchester Arena terror attack. 5 years on, they are campaigning to be able to register their deaths with the help of their local MP. First, it's Rosie with your news.
Good afternoon, it's 12:33. I'm Rosie Wright, keeping you up to date on GB News. The Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab, has told us that Boris Johnson won't be facing a leadership challenge. The Prime Minister has been criticised by his ethics advisor, who says Boris Johnson's police fine may have breached the ministerial code. That's often something politicians would resign over. Well, Mr Johnson says a fixed penalty notice is not a criminal conviction and that he hasn't broken the code. Shadow Levelling Up Secretary Lisa Nandy says Tory MPs should have the courage to say enough is enough.
This is just a damning indictment of the Prime Minister's leadership, that successive ethics advisors just feel that they can't trust the integrity of the Prime Minister. This is a government that is rotten to the core, but the rot starts from the top. If you can't trust the Prime Minister to act with decency and integrity, not to bend the rules when it suits him and rewrite the rules when he falls foul of them, can you trust him when he says that he'll actually deliver on tackling the cost of living crisis or dealing with Russian aggression in Ukraine?
British Airways has cancelled at least 124 flights at Heathrow. EasyJet has cancelled over 30 from Gatwick today as half-term travel disruption continues. BA says passengers were given advance notice. Airlines are blaming the delays and cancellations on staff shortages. The Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, is meeting with airline bosses today to try and find out what's gone wrong. The footballer Kurt Zouma has been ordered to carry out 180 hours of community service and has been banned for keeping cats for 5 years after he admitted to kicking and slapping his pet cat in a video. He's also been told to pay court costs of nearly £9,000. The 27-year-old West Ham defender pleaded guilty last week at Thames Magistrate Court to 2 counts of animal cruelty. We're on your TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Shortly, we'll be back to Gloria for the briefing.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
So how tough are things for Boris Johnson right now? Well, here with the very latest is our political correspondent, Tom Harwood. How deep is the trouble he's in?
It's not shallow, but it's potentially not as deep as over 180 MPs. And now we've heard a lot about the number 54, that number needed to start the process of a challenge against Boris Johnson, a vote of no confidence being called if that threshold is reached. If 54 members of Parliament, or 54 Conservative members of Parliament, that is, submit their letters of no confidence to the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady, then that ballot is called. But, of course, in order to dislodge Boris Johnson as leader of the Conservative Party, they'd need more than half of the parliamentary party, and that's over 180 MPs, which is quite a tall task to reach. The last time there was a successful ballot against a Conservative Party leader was back in 2003, when Ian Duncan Smith had a similar process against him. Back then, the Parliamentary Party was so much smaller. He only really needed around 90 to vote against him. Well, if 90 people vote against Boris Johnson, he'll be safe as houses. Although there are obviously all of the different implications that come with a vote. The numbers will be known, and governing may become harder. So there's a lot of speculation that the number of 54 has actually already been reached. That's a potential that could have happened. But as Parliament is in recess right now, Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of the 22, won't say that until Parliament is sitting again at the start of next week from 2:30 p.m. on Monday.
Oh, OK, interesting.
And if this is the case, if that has been reached, the speculation is broadly that then there would be a bit of campaign time, not a lot of campaign time, but a vote potentially on the Tuesday. Right. That is a possible situation that may happen, and that does seem to be the speculation that has built up over the course of a week, because only last week it seemed that the Prime Minister was so much more safe. The Sue Gray report did not have a big smoking gun, but the dissent seems to have built in this week while MPs have been away from Westminster. So the start of next week, after the Jubilee celebrations are over with, it may get very difficult.
We'll be watching with interest. Tom Howard, as ever, thank you. Now, 5 years ago, 22 people were murdered by a suicide bomber at an Ariana Grande pop concert in the Manchester Arena. Among those killed were Chloe Rutherford and her boyfriend, Liam Curry. They were just 17 and 19 years old. Now their mums, Caroline and Lisa, are campaigning with their local Labour MP, Emma Llewellyn-Buck, to be allowed to register their children's deaths. I'll be talking with Emma shortly, but I spoke with Caroline and Lisa just the other day. Caroline and Lisa, it's nice to meet you remotely today. Difficult conversation, and I'm grateful for you talking about your campaign. If it's okay, can I ask you, Caroline, to tell me a bit about Liam?
Liam was a very capable cricketer. He was clever, he was funny, hardworking, conscientious, everything that you would want as a man, everything you would want.
Lisa, tell me about Chloe.
Yeah, very much like Caroline said, you know, they were just lovely kids, and she was only 17 and just coming to the end of college, with all of her sort of life ahead of her, and again into music, so loved playing piano and singing and performing, basically, is what she loved to do. And yeah, that's it really. They were just in love, and it's just so sad.
They were in love, weren't they? How long had they been together?
They'd been together for 3 years. 3 years with a life mapped out. Yeah.
It's the most terrible, terrible loss, the most terrible thing that can happen to anyone. And you can't personally register their deaths. Just explain that.
So this is a law that has stood since, I believe, around about the 1950s. I have no clue why it was brought in as it was. Some people say it's because it's easier for the families. It's a bit too traumatic for you to go through what we went through and then register the children's death. But that shouldn't be down to a law. That should be down to a choice of the families, of the parents, whether we register their deaths or not. We shouldn't be told by bureaucracy that this is the rules, and I'm afraid this is how it should be done, because that's the personal element. If you take off your hat of a job and this is the way it's done, and put on your hat of a parent, What parent wouldn't want to register their child's death themselves? It's the last thing you can do for your child. So why would you not want that choice?
Why can't you?
Sorry, I just know Caroline said from very early on, you register their birth. So why would you not want to register their death as the parent? Yeah.
And this is because of the public inquiry.
The law states that a death that results in a public inquiry or inquest must be registered by the coroner. Now, I am on board with the coroner recording the cause of death. Obviously, the legalities of it, absolutely, 100%. The coroner should record the cause of death. But surely there should be a way on that form, even if it's just a little ticky box that says, do the families want to participate in the completion of the death certificate? If it's a no, the coroner then provides all the detail to the registrar. But if it's a yes, then the coroner can send the registrar the details of the cause of death, and the family surely could be given a reference number to attend the registrar's office at a set date and time to complete that registration process. It surely can't be that difficult to have a small amendment that allows the families that choice. He was my child, I'm his mum, and that is my job. It's not a bureaucrat's job to do that for me when I'm capable and want to do it myself.
And you went to raise this with your MP, didn't you? Can you remember whose idea it was, or how did you get in touch with Emma Llewellyn-Buck?
To be fair, Emma's been in touch with us from the beginning. Really, really supportive. Has done quite a few bits and bobs for us, if you like, and just always been there at the end of the phone call. So it was just common sense for us both to think, right, we're going to just have to see what Emma can do to help. And that's what we did.
And you're together campaigning to change the law on this?
We are. I think Caroline said a little bit before, it's a tweak. It's not a huge, full change, which I know is hopefully a little bit easier. But it's just been given the option, and we as mums want the right to be able to do that. So yeah, we will continue to go as far as we can with this to make sure that the change is made. And we know that other people are interested in this change, other families. So it's important.
And finally, tell me about the Chloe and Liam Together Forever Trust that you've set up.
Yep. So this is something that came out of our local area, really, while we were still down in Manchester. They were raising money and putting on events and things, and we knew we had to do something with the money, and we decided quite quickly that the kids had died in such a horrific way that we needed it to be something positive, so that in the future, when anybody said Chloe and Liam's names, it was they were helped by us to do whatever. We're hoping for some amazing Olympians or a huge cricket thing for Caroline, and a West End star for me. But it's about giving back to the community that were there for us from the very, very beginning. And it's just grown from strength to strength. We've literally just had Pink and Blue Day on the anniversary. We have events throughout the year, which again, our local community get involved in and help us raise. And we've helped over 250 recipients. But they can be like, boxing clubs. So you've got like a group of kids, not just sort of one individual. So we've helped a lot of people already, and it's about a lasting legacy really for the kids, isn't it?
Yeah, I think very early on, me personally, I hate it when anybody refers to Liam and Chloe as victims. I don't know why, I just don't like them called victims. They were people in their own right who had personalities and, you know, just gorgeous kids. So what we wanted to make sure was, in years to come, when somebody hears the name Chloe and Liam, they don't go, oh, they were the victims of the Manchester bombing. They think about the positives of what Chloe and Liam's names mean. And that was huge for us, because out of such a horrific nightmare has to come something positive. Otherwise, the terrorists win, and they'll never win, because there's always going to be positivity around where our kids' names are.
Extraordinary women. You can donate to the Together Forever Trust Caroline and Lisa have set up. The main mission is to inspire and support others to achieve and reach their full potential through the love of sport and performance. Joining me now is Caroline and Lisa's MP, Emma Llewellyn-Buck. She's the Labour MP for South Shields. Emma, extraordinary women. How did you come to know Caroline and Lisa?
So a friend of theirs first got in touch with me not long after the Manchester Arena attack and said the family would like to meet you. So I went round, I met the families. They wanted to discuss with me how the investigation was going so far. They wanted to ask for support in getting a bench outside our town hall for Chloe and Liam, which we now have, a memorial bench. And they just wanted to generally discuss their concerns and the issues that they had around the way that things were going. And that was way back in 2017.
And they want to personally be able to register their children's deaths. What have you been able to do to help them to be able to do that?
I mean, initially I raised it in the Chamber in the House of Commons. We've then had a meeting with the Minister. The Minister then met both Caroline and Lisa last week before my adjournment debate on Wednesday night. And so far, the overtures we're getting from the Minister are quite positive. He's saying he's committed to looking at this and seeing if these changes are possible. But, you know, as the ma'am said there, this is a simple tweak of legislation. This is not something that's complex. And, you know, let's introduce a bit of humanity and compassion into this decades-old act and make sure that people have a choice to register their loved ones.
Yeah. And just finally, there, just a few words from you about the trust that they have set up, the Together Forever Trust.
I think, you know, they're helping people right across our area to achieve their dreams. So out of the most unimaginable pain, they've found the strength to then make sure that their children's legacy is one of other people achieving their dreams. And I think that's a really fitting tribute for them, for their children.
And everybody watching will be absolutely with you and them in getting the change in the law that you're campaigning for. Thank you for coming on the show and explaining your campaign to us. Good luck with it. Thank you, Emma Llewellyn-Buck.
Thank you. We won't stop.
Good to hear. Up next, it's On the Money with Liam Halligan. And look who's with me now. It's only Liam Halligan.
What an interview. I've got to... That was just an astonishing interview. That was really...
It's all right.
Yeah, they're amazing mums, amazing mums. I'm so pleased that we can show the side of an MP's job, irrespective of their party, that are working to campaign together with their constituents to get change.
So today I'm talking about food price rises. There's been a sharp increase in food prices. The price of pasta's up 50% on a year. Bread is up 16%. Minced beef is up by the same amount. Rice is up by 15%. There are some basic foods, though, that are actually cheaper than this time last year. Cheese, spuds, which goes down well in my house. So it's a mixed picture, but overwhelmingly the direction of travel is up on those food prices. We're also looking at the future of the high street. Marks and Spencer's, could there be a more thoroughbred retail brand across the UK? They've got 254 what they call full-line stores across Britain. That's food and clothing. They're cutting that back. And a lot of those stores, unfortunately, I think it's unfortunate, are going to go out of town. So often M&S can really hold up a small city or a big town's high street. Some of those M&S high street outlets will be disappearing, unfortunately. It's a combination of the pandemic and the cost of living squeeze and just differences in the way people are living. But you know what? We really got to fight for our high street. High streets are the centre of communities, not in cities, yes, but in towns. It's towns that we've got to focus on.
It's interesting that you mentioned Marks and Spencer. I remember when I was an MP, unexpectedly, sort of accidentally meeting the then chief executive of Marks and Spencer, saying, please come to Ashfield, because it would have been such a boost. They didn't, as it were, but I know how much it would have meant to have a Marks and Spencer's for those people that are going to lose them.
That's right.
It's going to really hurt, isn't it? Because
It is.
it's just, you know, you can get good quality clothes.
It's such a great brand, and people are proud that they've got Marks and Spencer's, aren't they? Because it's not just an upmarket place. It's where a lot of people aspire to shop and do shop. And in these hard times, we're seeing changes happening, Gloria, that will be with us, you know, for the long term. I think something's breaking in the structure of how we run our commerce and particularly how we run our high streets. We're also going to be talking a little bit about Love Island, which I know you're a fan of. My young producers, they're telling me, no, it's great. So
Everyone
I've got
loves
to pretend that I follow it all the time. My kids do, even though I don't. But we're talking about Love Island in the context of fast fashion, when the young kids, they buy a T-shirt and a dress and then throw it away. But even that's starting to change.
Do you know what? Good on your producers, Rosie and Talia, because I bet you didn't think of flipping Love Island. You've been listening or watching The Briefing with me, Gloria De Piero. We have full coverage of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee over the bank holiday, of course. Join Alistair Stewart from 10 till 12 tomorrow. I will be back on Monday. Now it is time for your weather.
Hello, I'm Alex Deakin with your latest weather update. The weather's slowly settling down as we head towards the long weekend. Still some showers around today, mainly across northern and eastern parts of England, but high pressure is trying to move in. There are a couple of weather fronts that will provide some showers during the long weekend, but certainly for most in the west, it's dry and bright out there this afternoon. The cloud breaking up across Wales, some sunny spells for Northern Ireland, any showers over southwest England fading, and nowhere near as many showers across Scotland. But